Hello everyone, welcome back to the Analyst for 30th of December 2023, where we will be trying to understand the most important articles from the Hindu and the Indian Express. Now looking at the table of contents, we find that the very first article is regarding the Assam peace deal, which has been signed between the ULFA and the central government. In the next one, we will be looking at India's lithium deals with nations such as Argentina and Australia and so on. In the next one, we will be looking at India's cooperative sector and why it is a very important aspect of India's growth and development. In the next one, we will be looking at a recent index released by the DPIIT, that is an index of core industries. And finally, we will be concluding the article with the recent appointment to the CISF and discussing about the various mandate about this body. In the very first article, we will be looking into how the United Liberation Front of Assam has reached an agreement or a deal or a peace deal with the center, because this is very important concerning the security imperatives or the northeast region of India. And we understand that the northeastern states of India are often riled with various conflicts, with various armed rebellion, and which obviously we term them as insurgency events. And that is why whenever an agreement is reached between the center and the various state governments and the various local outfits such as the ULFA in this case, it is very important for us to know, because internal security and the role of external and internal non-state actors in our security apparatus is very important in GS3, and that is why we understand we need to look into the depths of this discussion. Now, we will be concentrating our discussion on the state of Assam and the levels of insurgencies that have crept out of the same. Now, according to Ministry of Home Affairs, insurgency is an activity where people indulge in violent and terror activities and intimidate people with arms in order to achieve their objectives or demands. Now, this is the textbook definition given by the Ministry of Home Affairs, and I would expect that all of you, whenever you're writing your answers in mains, please do quote such credible government sources when you are giving definitions such as this. Now, breaking down the definition, we understand that there can be some communities in some areas. For example, let us consider this region of Assam, as you can see in the map. As we can see in this map, there are a potpourri of various communities such as the Karbi community here, Assamese community in the northeast of Assam, say the Silheti community, which speaks a mix of Bengali and also some Assamese language, because it is primarily bordering the Bangladesh region. Then we have the Bodo territorial units, which are at the north west Assam border, primarily also sharing the borders with West Bengal. And also we have various other communities, as you can see. As per the government of India, the recognized tribal populations in Assam is attributed to around 39. Now imagine the number of sub-tribal sections or sub-communities that are present in this region, because historically we know that this entire northeast region were actually known as northeast frontier region of India, and the British, they acknowledge the fact that there is an immense amount of cultural historical roots, and also there are a number of communities in this region, and it is very eminent that any event which can trigger say reactions from them can be disastrous, because in this particular region there are large number of communities, and even a small spark can put one community against the other. And that is why we find that over say the British time, then after independence, when say the state of Assam saw a large amount of immigration from say the aftermath of 1970s war between India and Pakistan, finally resulting in the liberation of Bangladesh, and subsequent the mass exodus of immigrants into the particular state of Assam. These particular reasons have led into rising amount of tensions and discontent with the government of the day, and that is why these insurgency tendencies have increased over a period of time. That means that there are some local communities with their own local leaders who are not convinced with the status quo, or we are not happy with the present state of affairs in their say local community or at the state government or even at the national government, they feel that they are being isolated culturally. They are being say outnumbered by say linguistic forces which are coming from outside their states. So this is why there are sometimes this feeling of this desolation, isolation from the part of the government. That is why people involve the local people involved in violent and terror activities, and in no way these activities are ethical or lawful. And that is why we can find that often there are these local communities with their leaders, they intimidate the other people in their area with arms, and that is how they unduly influence those particular peoples and communities. And this is for what? This is to achieve their objectives or demands which are kind of myopic, and also in the not taking long run perspectives. And primarily these activities are against the state. And here the state means against the nation, against the government, against the police forces, the armed forces. They want to go beyond everyone, and they want to establish their own political, military or say economic structures apart from the government. And that is why this is highly unlawful and highly illegal too. And if we can see some of the reasons of insurgency in Assam, as I have already summed up, in this particular discussion so far, we can look at there are large amount of ethnic groups and subgroups in Assam. According to the government of India, there are around 29 recognized tribal areas and tribal communities. But we can understand there are far more diversity of tribal populations in this particular state itself, let apart the entire northeast region. So there are bound to be some clashes, there are bound to be some transgressions by other communities, and this is one of the primary reasons that the ethnic diversity is one of the reasons behind the same. And if we can see or break down this number of tribal say groupings into percentages, we find that the Bodo people constitute around 35% of the state's tribal population, followed by Mishing, Karbi, Rabha, Sonowal Khachi, then Lalung, Gado and Dimasa. Now you don't have to remember the names and the percentages, you just note that these are the communities which are say existing a significant part of the population or say percentages of the population. Then another reason is the issue of immigration that immediately followed the liberation of Bangladesh, and also the events before the liberation of Bangladesh too, because we know that the operation of Pakistan on Bangladesh before the war of 1970s was immense, and that actually forced the many Muslims and non-Muslim people who were actually speaking Bengali into the regions of or say into the states of Northeast. Not only Assam, let me tell you, they also moved into various states of the Northeast too, and also in the state of West Bengal too. Now these influx of communities in this diverse area, this further provoked them, and that is why we find this is the second reason of this insurgency event. Now there are other political factors too, such as say political slingshots, horse trading and so on, and also the representation of these tribal groups at the state cabinet level or at the local panchayat municipal levels. Apart from that, we know that according to the 6th schedule of the constitution, right, there are some designated autonomous councils for administration of the local tribal people, and here also there are some various issues taking place out of leadership issues, out of representation of issues too. And finally we find that largely the debate of economic development in the northeast, especially in these areas of Assam, is also a hotly contested debate, because we find that in the northeast region overall, the lack of infrastructural development, the lack of integration with the rest of India using the market economy is visibly less, and that is why the youth in these particular regions are typically disillusioned, and this is also increasing the rate of unemployment and also the rate of inflation, and decreasing the rate of economic growth in this particular region too. And here If we look at the various insurgents group in Assam, because this is in news right now, we find that according to this map, we can see all of the groups fighting for their respective, say, areas or territories. We find that the Bodoland people are concentrated in the northwest region of Assam, typically above the Brahmaputra plains. Then we have the ULFA fighting between the tribal or local population between this particular region, because they want to establish a Swadhin Assam region, and more on that later. Then there are other areas of ULFA stronghold, then also other areas dominated by Karbi tribals, Dimasar areas and two. So these are all the major and prominent insurgency groups operating out of Assam. Now focusing our discussion primarily on the ULFA or United Liberation Front of Assam, we have to know some significant details that are important for our examination. Now it is actually said that the ULFA stands only second in line in amounts of networking according to the LTTE. I hope that most of you are aware of what is LTTE, and I want you all to let me know what is LTTE, right? Okay, now LTTE, let me tell you only, right? It is one of the major rebel groups out of Sri Lanka which wanted Tamil supremacy in the Sri Lankan region, and it fought various insurgency and armed rebellion, and ultimately it also led to the assassination of one of our prime ministers too. People who know may also let me know in the comments. Now LTT had a huge amount of networks. That means that not only in Sri Lanka, it had networks in Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, Myanmar, USA, Netherlands, Europe and so on. And particularly following the same fashion and same demanio, the ULFA also had a significant amount of networking starting from the late 1970s. They were typically unhappy with the governments of India's stance on the Assam state, and they wanted their own Swadhin Assam, that is their own region with their own levels of sovereignty. That means they did not want to do anything with the government of the day, and that is why they thought of establishing a new sovereign entity. And there were various leaders such as Borgohain, then there were leaders such as Paresh and various other prominent leaders of this Alpha. Now the thing is that the fight for Swadhin Assam was typically unethical and illegal from the very beginning. They started with bombings, they started with abduction, kidnappings and so on. And this went for a period of time until in 1990 the government of India stepped in with Operation Vajiram. This is very important for your prelims. Please note it down. So with Operation Vajiram, the government of India cracked down heavily on this particular unit. And after that, the AFSFA Act was also implemented in Assam, claiming that Assam is a disturbed area. And from here on, the faction of Alpha started breaking down. Because of the government clampdown, these factions started to split into various factions. Now there was one faction known as suspended or surrendered Alpha or Sulfa. Now it is said that the Assam state government and the government of India and this Sulfa collaborated together, it is alleged, collaborated together to assassinate the other Alpha members and their family members. And typically this was told to be pro-government of India. And later in 2004 and 5 and 6 and so on, there were various attempts made by the other units of Alpha to integrate into the rest of the India, because by now they realized that the fight could not go on for long. And that is why a prominent leader, Paresh Barua, he claimed that he did not want his faction of Alpha to join with mainstream India, and he formed the anti-talk Alpha. And if there is an anti-talk Alpha, there is one pro-talk Alpha too. This Pro-Talk Alpha is the particular alpha that signed peace talk with India right now, because they were friendly with the government of the day, that is with the government forces, and they wanted the alpha faction, or say this particular insurgency, to be over. But the faction led by Paresh Barua, they continued their struggle, and we can find that there are various infamous statements and also infamous observations made on Paresh Barua too. For example, it is said that he is right now hiding in the Myanmar, in the densely forested Myanmar region right now. He is also said to support Pakistan in the Kargil war, because in their magazine, in their Alpha magazine, it was written by it was quoted that the Paresh Barua faction supported Pakistan in the Kargil war, and that is a very big offensive. It is also said that Paresh Barua also met Osama bin Laden. So you can see the level of networking that Alpha has in this particular debate, and that is why we find that still now, he has not been caught, and he is not acceding to the government of India, and also he is totally against the peace talk that is been held up to now. Now, this is the entire summary that I can give you so far in this particular discussion that is relevant for your examination. Beyond that, it is your own curiosity. You can look up into the internet, but this is what is important for your examination. Now, going forward, the government of India, it is very much appreciated that the peace deal has been brokered. But the thing is that even if you leave a certain amount of people who are not on the government of India's side in this particular debate, it is dangerous, because Paresh Barua and their faction can strike back any time. And that is why it is important for the government of the day right now to also integrate the anti-talk factions. They must be collaborating with the countries. As we can also understand, there is a need for international cooperation in this matter, because it is alleged that he is being hiding, or his faction has been hiding in, say, areas of Myanmar, some even claiming that he may be hiding in Bhutan too. So it is important that the international collaboration is important here. Then also we must understand the government of India, through many initiatives, as we can see here, is focused on the growth and development of the Northeast region, and especially the state of Assam too. For example, we have a particular ministry right now, such as known as the Ministry of Development of Northeast region. This is also known as Ministry of DONER. Next, we also have this initiative of Northeast Special Infrastructure Development to improve the quality of roads, highways, and so on. We have the Northeast Industrial Development Scheme, so that industries can be set up. We have the Northeast Gas Grid, so that there will be energy security in this particular region. We have the Udan Scheme to facilitate regional air connectivity between the particular cities and, say, states in the Northeast. We have the Bharatmala Prayojana, which is also looking to boost the overall infrastructure of the Northeast. Then we have also the Prime Minister's Development Initiative for Northeastern region, which has been announced in the recent budget too, which is also known as PM Divine Initiative, which is focused on delivering the initiatives of infrastructure. So we can understand the government is focused on the growth and development, and here it is important that the youth, the local people, they focus on the growth and development of the region to decrease the level of insurgency, because the insurgents groups, they primarily prey on the youth. They demotivate the youth, they radicalize them and force them to join their forces. If there will be growth and prosperity, then maybe the youth will be employed here and not there. Next, there is also need to establish a Northeast Security Council to look at the security imperatives of the day, where the state governments of the respective states could be there, then the government representative has to be there, and various experts related to security must be there. And finally, we understood that there must be an international cooperation, because the amounts of drug trafficking, black money, money laundering, then the hiding of these fugitive criminals, these are being facilitated by, say, the faction groups in those particular countries, such as Myanmar. In the dense forest they are hiding. So there is an international cooperation need also in this particular region. So these are the imperatives of the day. In the next article, we will be looking at recent India's lithium deals, because India right now, over the last 1 year, has increased its search for critical minerals, including lithium. Why this is very important? Because in GS mains every year in GS1 you can expect at least one question from a natural resource, be it petroleum, crude oil, or right now the case of critical minerals right now is very important, because we understand that critical minerals are those materials such as rare earth elements, lithium, cobalt, graphite, copper, titanium, and so on. The list is not exhaustive. The further list you can also see here. These are these minerals which are very important for our day-to-day functioning. That means the mobile phones, the laptops, cameras, and the various say electronical equipments, the satellites that we send to the space, the aircraft that we build, starts from every single thing. We need critical minerals, and that is why we find that these are useful in our day-to-day lives. Okay, don't you think that apart from the word critical, important materials must be given the name to them, right? Because these are important, right? Why critical name has been given? Critical signifies that there are some characteristics. Why? Apart from their importance, they're important, yes. Apart from their importance, there are also other factors which make them super duper important. That is the supply vulnerability. For example, say if we consider the case of lithium. Lithium is, if as we will be seeing in the next slides, lithium is primarily concentrated in regions of Latin America and in some regions of Australia. Apart from this, also in rest of the world we do not find huge levels of say mines and say resources, and that is why we find that there are some supply vulnerabilities. And also in cases of natural disasters, in cases of once in a lifetime pandemic experiences such as the COVID pandemic, when the world will be totally shut down, the supply of critical materials will also be totally shut down. So what will be powering our smartphones, electric cars, and so on if the entire supply chain is shut down? Because as we can see, India's net import on critical minerals such as lithium, cobalt, nickel, and so on is 100%. That means India is fully importing whatever the need for lithium, cobalt, nickel is in India, and so on. It is fully import dependent on the rest of the nations. So there are some supply chain vulnerabilities, and also there are limited substitutes. Can you tell me right now with the present level of technology, what are the say substitutes for lithium? What are the substitutes for say rhenium, beryllium, tantalum? There are very few, and if there are alternatives, they are very costly. With the present state of technology, they will be very costly. Maybe in the future they can be say prominent, but right now they are very costly. And as you can see, as I have already told, some of the common examples of critical minerals are rare earth elements which are used for permanent magnets for wind turbines, electric vehicles, and also these are used in the incoming bullet trains that will be constructed or say inaugurated in India in the next few years, which are already operational in Japan and China and so on. Lithium ion batteries, we know we use in our day-to-day lives, in our smartphones and everything, in our electric vehicles. This power the various electronic devices. Cobalt is a very important aspect of lithium ion batteries because it is used alongside lithium in batteries, and also used to make super alloys, to make super say materials and so on. Then there will be graphite which are used as electrodes, copper which are used as vital conductors in say various electrical wirings. Copper is a very good conductor, and the resource of copper is also not available in India abundantly. It is being imported mostly. Then titanium, we find that recently titanium has been used in, can you name the device recently? Okay, apart from that device, titanium is also very important. It is used in aircraft, spacecrafts, and so on, because it is very corrosive resistant. Now apart from these minerals, let us focus on lithium right now. See, the criticality or the nature of lithium that makes it critical are the demand surge. For example, the International Energy Agency, it projected that by 2040, the projects that needs lithium, such as electronics, such as smartphones, laptops, batteries, and so on, electric vehicles, to build wind energy, solar energy, we need to store that energy somewhere. So we need further batteries for them too. So that is why the IEA estimated that by 2040, the demand for lithium will be increasing 40%. And that is a huge demand. That is a very, very huge number. Then, according to India's aspirations, India is trying to become net zero by 2070. And how will India achieve that? By using more and more renewable energies such as wind energy, solar energy, hydro, small hydro energy, and so on. So, for that we need to store the energy too, as I told before also, right? So that is one of the requirements of green energy. Then there is also the supply chain vulnerabilities, such as if we see this map, most of the lithium reserves, or say which are reserves which are proven, right, they are located in Bolivia, followed by Argentina and Chile. And a very, very important site in Argentina is known as Salar del M, right? And here we find that this particular region is very, very important for the supply of the lithium resources all over the world. This particular region is known as Lithium Triangle, and this Lithium Triangle is attributed, and also including Peru, if we include the Peru nation, we attribute to around 67% of world's proven reserves. And this is a very, very important reserve for the entire world with respect to lithium. Apart from this, we also have Australia, which also have substantial amount of reserves. But we can find that these are limited reserves, right? And also if we look at India, India is not nearer to, say, Latin America. It is also, you can say, close to Australia. But the thing is that the supply chain is very, very limited. That is a cause of concern. And also we find that the recycling, or say the reuse of lithium batteries, reprocessing them, refurbishing them and using them again, or which is also known as circular economy, is also very, very limited with reference to lithium in all across the world. Recently, the government of India undertook an initiative to increase the amount of lithium via recycling them, but that is also only India-centric initiative, not across all of the world. And also there are some other challenges and opportunities too. For example, say the sustainability concerns are there. For example, the extraction of lithium is also a very, very environmentally polluting task. For example, the recently discovered lithium reserves in Jammu and Kashmir, they have been found that they have been located in densely forested regions of Jammu and Kashmir hills. And to excavate them, we have to do deforestation. For example, say in the Salar del Muerto, mines of, say, Argentina, there are labor safety concerns. There are environmental concerns such as rising amount of emissions out of mining lithium. So that is a cause of concern with reference to sustainability. Then there are some geopolitical implications such as, say, whatever the lithium reserves are there in Africa, China is trying to go and sign deals with the particular governments. And particularly this is very, very prominent in the Northeast African region. And here China is trying to do a debt trap diplomacy. Debt trap diplomacy, where China is trying to give loans to this particular government, and intentionally it is giving loans in high amounts so that the governments cannot repay China back. And that is trapping the governments of the African nations in China's hold. And that is, causing a geopolitical implication. Apart from this, there are also various conflicts which are going on. For example, the Russia-Ukraine crisis, the Israel-Palestine issue, and the various issues that takes place in, say, the Latin American nations such as, say, Argentina and Bolivia, with reference to political instability, rising case of inflation in these particular regions. This is also a cause of concern, right? Then the lithium reserves in India, though they are not fully, say, surveyed by the Geological Survey of India, to the fullest extent, we find that the reserves in India are not being tapped to their potential. And finally, India is also a very late entrant to this lithium game, with China, with USA, with other nations being in the game for a long period of time. Right now, India is in a recent push to increase the amount of electric vehicles, becoming net zero by 2070. And but the thing is that India is quite late to this game, and already there are too many players in the same. But yeah, India can definitely navigate its way through using diplomatic relations, and that is what it is doing right now. It is right now going on to various ventures with the private companies located in Latin American nations. We will be looking at that right now. Here, lithium is also known as the white gold because of the various reasons that we discussed, and that is why India is also taking many initiatives for the same. Right now, India is totally dependent, as I told you, on lithium. I showed you the figure here. This you also can find out in your handouts that, in this particular band, right, India is mostly dependent on these critical minerals, and this includes lithium too. Where India imports lithium from? Chile, Russia, China, Ireland, Belgium. So these are the nations where India imports from. Note that there are some names of countries such as Belgium, Ireland, who may not even have the lithium resources. But what they do? They process the lithium and make it export oriented. Right? So India is also missing on the same. Remember, I told you that India is late entrant to this game because there are some nations who maybe do not have even any resource, but they are developing the same. Now, that is why we find that according to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, $3.3 billion is the import bill on lithium alone. Right? Over a period of time, India has imported around 165 crore lithium ion batteries, and that is a very, very serious drainage of foreign exchange from our nation. The mining lithium resources recently have been given permission by the government of India at southern Karnataka's Mandya district, Chhattisgarh, and some only few selective blocks of Jammu and Kashmir excavated lithium resources areas. As we can see, across India, we find that lithium is scattered in these amount of states. Right? This has been say excavated or say studied by the Geological Survey of India so far. And that is why Indian government was also taking some initiatives. For example, in the National Mineral Exploration Policy of 2016, the amount or say the debate on critical minerals came up, and the importance of lithium in the same was also stated, and one of the stated policies is to increase the excavation and processing and reducing the import of lithium by increasing the domestic production of the same. Then the Khanij Bidesh India Limited, which is also known as KABIL, it is collaborating with Camion of Argentina and Inami of say Bolivia to sign deals. These are the private companies who are processing lithium at these particular countries. So the Indian central public sector enterprise is trying to get an agreement of the same. Next, India is also trying to promote circular economy, where it is trying to process around 98% of the lithium batteries which are sent for recycling. So it has been said that you can get back the lithium from the batteries if you use proper advancement of technologies. So circular economy is also some initiative that India is trying to promote. In the next one, we will be looking at the cooperative sectors, because right now the Union Minister recently said that the Gujarat State Cooperative Bank should be developing a system so that all cooperative entities in the state government or in the state or say the state of Gujarat can open accounts in the cooperative bank. While this may seem a little ambiguous, let me just simplify this in this particular discussion. See, any matter related to cooperative society, cooperatives are very, very important in our GS2 because we have various developmental processes and the development industry, where we have to know about the role of NGOs, SSGs and various groups and associations, donors, charities, institutional, other stakeholders. In these other stakeholders, the cooperative sectors will be coming in. Now, to start with the very basics, right? What is a cooperative society? See, cooperative societies are what? Imagine that in a particular region, that there are some communities who are living. They want to set up a new business. For example, say they want to set up a papad factory. Now they have everything. They have chefs, they have ingredients, they have little amount of capital, that is money. They have some machineries also. But what they want they want to totally form a membership group, and each and member will be contributing one item. For example, say one member can say that okay, I will be the chef. One member can say okay, I have a spice garden, I will be sending the spices which are required for papad. Another member say okay, I have some money which I have saved, I can purchase some machineries required for this. So what they did, they formed a voluntary group, right, which is a member owned, right, and also they are discussing the roles that each and every member can have. They are discussing that if the papad will be produced and it will be sold off to the market, and if they are having profits, what will be the distribution of the profits, right? So they are very organized and democratically controlled. So these particular societies are actually formed by people who have some common needs or goals. They are actually known as cooperative societies. In India, there are many types of cooperative societies. We have cooperative banks, right? Cooperative banks can be at the state level, at a single state level, or at the multi-state level, right? Further, at the state level, we have a state level cooperative bank, such as say the Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank, the Kerala Cooperative Bank. We have, apart from the state level, we have the district cooperative banks, and at the lowest level we have the PACS, right, primary agricultural credit societies. So what they do, these state, district and PACS are all cooperative banks. They do what? They do exactly the same here. There are various members who pool their resources and they run a bank, right? So these are the cooperative banks who are actually known as credit cooperatives. They function the same role as the banks, such as extending deposits, giving loans and so on. Then there are some marketing cooperatives too. The very famous marketing cooperative is known as Amul. What they do, they just collaborate with each and every, say, a dairy farmer, and they help them in marketing their produce, right? So there is also this Amul. There is also something known as Horticultural Producers Cooperative Marketing and Processing Society, which also helps in the amount of aggregation that is needed for horticultural crops such as vegetables and fruits and so on. Then there are also some consumer cooperatives such as Super Bazaars or Kendriya Bhandar. Right now Kendriya Bhandar is also releasing something known as Bharat Atta, which is a very affordable unit, or say variant of atta, that is actually targeted at the vulnerable section of the society, and that is priced at just around 27.5 rupees per kilo, that is below the market rate. So there are also some consumer cooperatives in this manner. Then there are some producer cooperatives such as textile industries and some local artisans, handicrafts, weavers, who also can form cooperative and do the same. There are also housing cooperatives who looks at housing societies, rents and so on. And finally service cooperatives too, which look at education, telecom services, or say even food and dining services. If you are from Kolkata, you may have heard about the famous coffee house. In Delhi also there is one coffee house. So what is the coffee house? It is just a place where people just go. It is just like a cafe. It has various coffees, chais, samosas and everything that you can have. And that is actually run by a cooperative society, right? So these are the various types. Now what are the benefits of cooperative society? The very first is that, these are giving access to credit, inputs and markets for, say, farmers and small businesses. So people who have, say, I told, right, some resources, some members who are like-minded, they can come together, right? And even in these cases, when a particular group is forming a cooperative society, banks can also give loans to them very easily by identifying them as a group. So they can be collectively holding each and every member for any loan, for any credit that they take. Now it is also very good because they can set up new businesses, they can create new jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities, especially women. They can largely benefit from the same. Then they are offering also fair prices for products. If you go to any cooperative bank, or say if you go to a cooperative marketing society such as the Amul, you see that their prices are very justified, right? Their prices are very justified, comfortable, and they are not too high. Even in the cooperative banks, they primarily lend between their members only, and the interest rate is also low between the members apart from the scheduled commercial banks, because they are not profit oriented. They want to help out their members, and that is why it is actually fair for them to. Then they also empower marginalized communities, because particularly women, SC, ST communities, the EWS, economically weaker sections, they can also form cooperatives, and they will be empowered if they convert their enterprises into successful businesses. And finally, they also build sustainable and ethical supply chain, because we have to understand that this is the organization which runs on trust, right? This runs on trust between the members. So it is very, very important that this trust is respected between this cooperative body. So it is very, very ethical, and also sustainable business practice is also practiced by the members too. But there are some challenges. Often we have seen some political interference being influenced in the management of, say, some very prominent cooperative banks and so on. So this is one issue. Then there is also a lack of qualified personnel and training in these cooperative sectors, particularly say the marketing cooperatives and say the banks. There are some lack of qualified, say, institutions. Then there is also limited access to capital and technology. Maybe there are some cooperative societies which are working in the, say, the textile industry, but they do not have enough capital or, say, the latest technologies to reduce their cost. Then they are also dependent on government support, because government gives heavy subsidies, heavy tax benefits to this particular cooperative sector, and they gradually become dependent on the government help. Then there is also competition from the private sector. We know that the private sector is also very, very efficient in providing goods and services. Cooperative sectors themselves also provide goods and services. But some private sectors, such as, say, the big supermarts, right? They compete with the cooperative sector, and they have heavy funding, while the cooperative sector maybe do not even have. So that is one issue. And finally, there is also lack of branding and marketing experience too. Basically, the small cooperative sectors, they do not have that amount of expertise like the private sector or like any other sector. So they also lack in this particular manner. And that is why, to overcome the challenges, the government also took some steps. For example, it took the highest step ever possible, that is separating or, say, establishing a new ministry for cooperation, or, say, establishing a new ministry for the cooperative sector. So this is a very, very huge step, where recently the Home Minister is the minister for this cooperation, and they take various initiatives, they take various reports related to cooperative societies in India. Next, the cooperative entities are also encouraged to open accounts in cooperative banks, as of the recent statement, as this news is concerned with. This means that there are many cooperative sectors in India, or, say, societies in India, and they generally have bank accounts with big banks such as State Bank of India, PNB. Now, why not these cooperative societies, cannot they set up their own bank accounts in cooperative banks, apart from, say, normal banks such as, say, ICICI, SBI and so on? They already have huge capital, but cooperative banks, they are not having that huge capital. They need funds, they need deposits, so that they can give out loans and have their own profits. Now, both the cooperative societies and cooperative banks can benefit from the same, and that is why recently in Gujarat there are some initiatives that are being taken. Their cooperative societies are right now depositing their money in cooperative banks, and this is helping the banks too. Apart from this, there are various tax exemptions that are given to cooperatives, right? Then some credit guarantee schemes and also subsidies which are given, because the government want to help them and not burden them too much with tax and so on. So it is giving subsidies, it is giving low interest loans using credit guarantee schemes and so on. Then the government's electronic marketplace is a platform where the government procures day-to-day items that the government needs. For example, say, paper, books, copies, furniture and so on that the government offices need. And sometimes the cooperative societies also produce the same. The MSMEs also produce the same. So government e-marketplace, or GEM, is a portal where government takes the procurement of this from these cooperative societies to encourage their production. Then we also have one district, one product, which is making one product which is very popular in one district at the national level, so that in that particular product, those artisans, those farmers, those groups of people will be benefiting from the same, and especially the cooperative societies can also take up the production of that product too. Then we also have, like this initiative only, one station one product too. For example, say promoting one product at one railway station, or say the local station too. That is also a very good initiative of promoting cooperative societies. Then also we have various welfare developments for animal husbandry development, and primarily there are many cooperative sectors who are working in the animal husbandry part. And finally we have various digital initiatives such as promoting Digital India, e-governance, and the BharatNet, which is trying to provide optic fiber connection to almost all of the villages in India, where mostly the cooperatives are present. So these are the various initiatives that you can highlight in your answers if the question is on cooperative sector. In the next one, we will be looking at the index of core industries, because recently the output of 8 key infrastructure industries known as the core sector slowed down to around 7.8% in November. Now we need not look at the figures or data, because this is something which is published on a monthly basis and fluctuates too much. Now this is very important for prelims, and the concept is important. Now see, index of say a particular 8 core industries is reflecting the production volume or the number of production that these particular 8 industries are producing. What are these 8 industries? Such as coal, crude oil, natural gas, petroleum refinery, fertilizer, steel production, cement production, electric generation, and so on. Now I want all of you to arrange these in descending order in the comment section. Arrange this in the descending order, and also if you can also arrange in the ascending order, please note the order and please write the order in the comments too, right? Why am I telling you of this order? Because maybe in the prelims, maybe in your test series, these may be asked, right? And note that the weightages are different for each and every sector here. Now, it is released by the Office of the Economic Advisor under DPIIT, and the base year of the same is 2011 to 12. It is measuring primarily the production output of this particular 8 industries. This is actually known as the index of core industries. Now, this is very important to know the amount of production, and also this is very important to know about the economic activity, because we know the more production would be, the higher economic activity will be. And right now if there is low production, it is generally attributed to the festival holidays that were prevalent in the month of say November and before too. So that is primarily attributed because maybe the factories were shut down, and that is why the production was less. Now in the next month maybe the index will be higher. So that is for the next month. Now finally we'll be concluding with CISF, a very important force, because right now recently Neena Singh was appointed to the CISF, and she is the very first woman Chief of Central Industrial Security Force. And if you can also quote these in your ethics case studies, in your essays, where you generally use the examples of prominent women in say administration, in say welfare activities, and so on. Now actually CISF was established by an act of parliament on March 10, 1969. After actually a massive fire broke out at the heavy engineering corporation plant at Ranchi. So after around 5 years, after the recommendation of the Justice Mukherjee Commission, this CISF was set up under the Ministry of Home Affairs. The headquarters is at Delhi, and there are around 9+1 sectors. There are 9 sectors as of North sector of CISF, South, Southwest, Northeast, Central sector, Training sector, and so on. And additionally there is also one extra sector, that is the Fire Wing, because the very origin of CISF was after the aftermath of a major fire at Ranchi. Now it provides security to India's industrial undertakings at a compensatory cost. What is this? For example, say there are various agencies in India, both private and government agencies, which take CISF forces. So for the duration of their stay, or say the duration of the contract, these government entities, these private entities, they have to pay to the CISF for their use of the forces, right? It is actually for the better protection and security of industrial undertaking. First, they were inducted at the Fertilizer Corporation of India plant at Trombay in 1969, the very first year. And right now, they also provide consultancy protection to joint venture projects of, say, what, PPP projects, right, between the public and the government and the private sector. And also the private sector also, they also take the CISF protection at some some prominent times. The RBI's means the heritage monuments such as the Taj Mahal, airport, even the Delhi metro, they also take the help of CISF for the protection. One of the seven central armed forces are actually under, all of them are under Home Ministry, and CISF is one of them. And finally, as of now, they are also giving VIP protection. And also recently, after the parliamentary security debacle recently, CISF is right now designated as the security provider of the parliament too. So this was all for today. I thank you all for being a very, very patient audience. All the best for your aspirations till we meet again. Thank you.